Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good morning, good evening, good whatever you have. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome back to Unveiling Faith, where religion meets reason. And today we have all three members, uh, Madin and Kali. Uh, Hello, Madin, Kali. How are you two doing?
Good, very good.
I'm good as well, Philo. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Good because now we have something that we love, which is critiquing some of these very deep philosophical ideas. And today we have one such video that we are going to review, and that is none other than Mohammed Hijab, our one of our favorite uh, Dawah guys, so to speak, to review videos of. And what it is about, it is I think these Sapience Institute guys have started this series. Probably, I'm not quite sure how long it has been going on, and I think this discussion Carly and I had in our last Hindi Urdu stream as well. It's probably been going on for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, couple of episodes. I'm not quite sure, but at least I remember having seen 3 episodes of it. And this one, I remember, I think this is the third one of that series. But they have taken contingency argument. That one I remember, which we discussed in our last Hindi Urdu stream. And this one is probably taking the same similar idea, the Kalam cosmological argument, or all those arguments where, sorry, where infinities come into picture, where they have to, what is atheistic position, whether the universe is eternal or it's not eternal. If it started, then theists have a point to make, because then it was started by some conscious being, and then it happens to be their god, and so on and so forth. That's how their arguments go usually. But if you're an atheist, your best bet is to say, hey, this is probably an eternal universe. Or maybe even if you are a little bit more sophisticated atheist, like Graham Oppy, or maybe quite a few other philosophers who would still concede the fact that yeah, there might be just one necessary existence, but then you have no handle on what attribute that necessary existence has, or what it is basically. So that's the base context that I wanted to put forth before we started. Madin and Kelly, do you have anything to put forth before we started
Well,
the audio?
let's jump into it because I'm pretty sure we'll be short on time otherwise. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Kelly, where to start from? Maybe 45. Uh,
So someone will ask, who's the greatest black? Someone will ask, who's the great?
so start from the very beginning. Kelly, what do you think?
Start from three minutes. Let's see.
Okay, 3 minutes. Okay, let's see.
How many Arabs were involved in philosophy? Not that many, actually. They were involved in other things. I mean, you have Al-Kindi, you have Al-Farabi, and obviously you have Ibn Rushd.
I
These are
think
the three greatest
this is
Arab
just an intro,
philosophers
so I
of all
think
time
let's move to
by
11 minutes.
ethnicity or lineage. In my estimation, obviously people can make their own arguments. And sometimes he'd actually use his argument. If you think about Ibn Taymiyyah's magnum opus, what's it called? Dar al-Ta'arud bin al-Aqli wal-Naql, which is the lack of contradiction between revelation and text. Well, Ibn Rushd had almost exactly the same title of a book that he was making exactly the same argument, but in a different way. So it's very difficult to argue that Ibn Taymiyyah wasn't seriously, as John Hoover and others agree, influenced by Ibn Rushd, very seriously influenced by him. And we'll see how that comes about in some of the arguments that Ibn Rushd makes against Al-Ghazali, because Ibn Taymiyyah essentially agrees with him on that. Ibn Rushd is responding now to Al-Ghazali, okay, and Ibn Rushd is saying the following. He's saying, look, some of what Al-Ghazali is saying is incorrect, okay. Last week we covered some key differences between Ibn Sina and Al-Ghazali. What were those key differences?
Al-Ghazali was making an argument which required time and infinity.
Sure, perfect, all right. Whereas Whereas Ibn Sina?
His argument doesn't require causality and doesn't require you to justify A or B theory of time.
Perfect. Okay, that's number one. The second important thing that we spoke about last week relates to infinity itself. The way they argued for an impossibility of infinity. Now, this is a bit of a complicated question, and that's why I'm going to give you guys 2 to 3 minutes to speak to the person next to you, to recap with the person next to you. This is important because if we don't get this, we're just kind of going through things that we're not. Recap with the person next to you what the differences are between Al-Ghazali's approach, okay, to negating an infinite regress of things versus Ibn Sina's approach. And I want you to think about how the Hilbert example as a, as a hint, okay? Hilbert's, what's his name? Hotel example, all right? So 2 minutes and then we'll come back and I'll engage you on this. Okay, look, let's start with Al-Ghazali, all right? Al-Ghazali. What's his argument against an infinite regress, which William Craig uses? How does he prove an infinite regress cannot exist? What's the main point that he's making?
Yeah, the main point Ghazali makes is if we go infinitely into the past, then we'd never be able to have the present. So for example,
okay, so a traversability argument. Okay, yeah, go on, keep going. Yeah,
yeah. So he mentions that this would basically lead to an absurdity.
Okay.
And so
how does he show that though? We went through this last week. He has some mathematical ways of showing this.
Right.
First of all, what does he say about the nature of infinity? What is the nature of infinity? What is infinite?
For Ghazali, does he say that infinity is something that cannot be actualized in the real world?
Okay, so let's put it in a different language, right? Infinity, is it limited or unlimited?
Unlimited.
Infinity, is it exhaustible or is it inexhaustible?
Inexhaustible.
Okay, so Al-Ghazali, let's say infinity, you've got a certain amount of thing and then you add to it. His main argument was that the proposition that time is going forward or that movements are happening, whatever it may be, is akin to saying that you're adding to infinity, which is to say that you're exhausting the inexhaustible.
Yeah.
Or you're limiting the unlimited. So he essentially says infinity is something which is not susceptible to addition. Yet you guys are saying, okay, there has been an addition to infinity. Do you understand the argument?
Yeah.
So what was Hilbert's hotel example then? This is very important, guys, because, by the way, this is the heart of the argument you're going to have with an atheist. This is the heart of it. If you can't demonstrate in some way why infinity is false or in a certain form of infinity, then they're going to have the upper hand. So you have to be really clear about this bit here.
Is the example that the hotel has an infinity number of rooms available.
Yeah.
And then someone comes in and asks for a room and then they say it's full.
Yeah, so if they come in, it's a dilemma. Yeah. Either they say it's full, in which case I thought there was an infinite amount of rooms, or it's not full, in which case I thought it was an infinite amount of rooms,
How can it be full if it's infinite?
Exactly, that's the whole point of it. That's the dilemma.
No, but why would they say it's full in the first place?
Yeah, because it's all been occupied. Every room has been occupied.
Just wanted to call out this part, right? And this guy, whoever raised that question, is a very pertinent question over here, right? So when you talk about infinities, you don't treat those infinities just like how you treat the transfinite numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 natural numbers or integers or whatever you may have, right? So the infinities are not bound to any the similar arithmetic that or similar operations that transfinite arithmetic is, right? Or transfinite numbers are. So here, when you say, and this is one of the main objection to Ghazali or anybody who's talking about infinity is that you cannot use the same term. For example, being full, right? Let's take this example of Hilbert's hotel, right? You can't talk about it being full, even if it's the number of, let's say, guests in that hotel are infinite, right? So the definition of full itself has to be redefined because there is no full in a hotel which has infinite number of rooms, because there can always be a room that can be created, or there could be infinite number of rooms that can be created for additional number of guests to fit in, right? And that's one of the conundrums, right? That's why they say that don't treat infinities like transfinite numbers. Treat infinities with a different set of mathematics, right? Or Cantorian.
I think
Cantorian.
I think what they might not also agree to is the fact that I mean, of course, they believe that conceptually in mathematics there are infinities, and there's also a concept of smaller infinity than larger infinities. And what they would say is that these are not these cannot exist in actuality. In actuality, so I think understanding the fact that there, at least mathematically, there can be smaller and larger infinities. When, as an example, the set of all natural numbers is infinite, uh, and the set of all integers is also infinite, but the set of all natural numbers is greater than the set of all integers. So, despite both being infinite, the conceptually in mathematics, one set is larger than the other. So,
Yeah,
I think
fairly.
what they
It's probably real numbers. Set of all
sorry,
natural, real numbers,
real numbers.
right?
Sorry, real
Yeah,
numbers. Set
yeah.
of all real numbers is greater than the set of all integers. So yeah, so I mean, and I mean, in later on, I think we can discuss how and why I think even according to them, and according to their worldview, this should raise. They would be facing a similar issues, and I think Hijab will touch on that, and then we'll see his response to it. And I think his response is not up to the mark.
Yeah, totally agree. Kelly, Martin, you want to make a point? Shall we move on?
Not really. I mean, I think what he said about the fact that the hotel is full, that creates a dilemma. If it's full, then how can it be infinite? And if it's not full, then how can it be infinite? Is that what he said?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is said, right? That's what he's saying. That then it's a dilemma kind of a sense, right? If it's full, then it can't be infinite. You can't. You're if you add something, then you're trying to exhaust the inexhaustible. Basically, that's what this point is.
That's right. But I think if I'm not sure if it's full, then it necessarily means it can't be infinite. Why is that the case? I mean, if for every room in this infinite number of rooms there is a person already in there, then for every room in this infinite number of rooms there's an infinite number of persons in there, right? By saying it's full, it just means that there is a one-to-one correspondence for every room with a person, right? I don't see any contradiction there with the concept of infinity. Like, is he trying to say, if it wasn't real infinity, then some will not be full? I don't see that. It will all be full, right?
Yeah, I think you can take it. You can attack it from multiple directions. What you are thinking uh, could be right in one sense as well, right? Because you're saying you think the way you are looking at it is that a full means all the rooms of infinity are occupied, and you just can't create a room there, right? That's what you're saying, right? If I understand you correctly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's also a perfect view to say it, right? But then they'll probably object. No, no, no. You can move always one person from room number 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then they'll just move
Create a
through
gap. Yeah.
that example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure,
but
we can do that.
then the problem, and from your perspective, what you're saying is correct. What will happen is that this chain will keep going up until
Yeah.
infinity, and there'll
Yeah.
be one person who would not be able to find a room if you did this, right? Ad infinitum, right? Because all the rooms are of course full. Who are you gonna move to create a room, right? You'll keep going up until you counted all the room number 1,000,000 2, 1,000,000 3, 1,000,000,000 500 by 1,505. But you just keep going, but you can't find that one room that is empty, basically, right?
Yeah.
That's the point, right? And I agree. That's another objection that you can raise. I mean, see, the point I'm thinking here is that you just cannot square these two terms. I mean, you can say that full means all the rooms are occupied up until infinity, right? That could be one way of saying it as well, right? But in my opinion, that those terms full and vacant or has room should not be applied to infinities, because you can always figure out a room, somehow, right? Whatever mathematics you can do, because you'll do infinity minus infinity, and that's something that'll give you something, right?
Mm.
So that's what I'm saying, right? You can't do that mathematics that you do, or you can't use that
Yeah,
language that you use for, right?
No, I agree. I agree. But I think the mistake might be thinking that full is a quantity or a particular number, right?
Yeah, I think full is more of a set. When you
Yes,
think,
exactly.
when you think in Cantorian mathematics or
Cantorian terms. Yeah.
Cantorian, yeah,
If you think
yeah,
of full as a number, then it does sound odd. But if you think full as a set, then then you're no longer thinking about a particular step or stage or number on this sequence or
yeah,
something.
right,
Yeah.
right,
No endpoint. I'm not thinking as an endpoint. It's just a complete. There's no finish end.
right.
It's just talking about the entire set. Yeah,
Right.
full. Well, that obviously creates the problem, the Hilbert's hotel problem, right? Because if it's full, then where do you create the space? But I'll talk about the issue with this anyway later on. Do you want to carry on?
Sure, let's move on.
Oh, so it's that every room is occupied as well already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you get his argument? Okay. Now, where does Ibn Sina disagree with him, or where does he differ? What does he say?
Does he say that you can't take away from infinity?
So his argument is, and we went through this with the help of Mohammed Tzortzis in the secondary source material. He wrote a book, and he called it the mapping argument. Okay, and he said, no, it's not about adding to infinity, but rather it's about taking away from infinity. So you have two sets, and then you have a whole part relationship which is equal. So we said, imagine you've got two sets, set one, set two. Set one is infinite. Let's assume that me and Subboor have been speaking on WhatsApp for an infinite amount of time. I started the conversation with Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Set two is the same set, but removing the first word that I said to him. But according to this, both of them should be the same because they're both infinite. So he kind of goes backwards and does it. Okay. Whereas Ghazali is talking about adding to it and the preposterous nature of adding to infinity. Ibn Sina is sort of talking about the preposterous nature of there being a part-whole relationship where the part is equivalent to the whole, because a part is by nature and definition meant to be smaller than the whole. Do you see the difference? Now, he has two conditions. Do you remember those conditions? He says, this is what Ibn Sina is saying. He says, we don't care about we don't mind certain types of infinity. Okay? It's only when these two conditions are put to infinity that infinity becomes incoherent. What are those two conditions? We spoke about them last week.
Is one of them order?
Yes, that's the first one, the ordering condition. And what's the second condition?
It being simultaneous.
Beautiful. Okay. So the coexisting condition, they all have to coexist at the same time and ordered.
Can you explain them again?
Yeah. So the coexisting condition is like, he's saying, let's assume for the sake of argument, make this into an analogy or a thought experiment, that we're talking about multiverses. The atheist says to you, look, we believe in an infinite amount of multiverses. Okay. So, okay, are these, the question that Ibn Sina would want to ask, are these multiverses existing all at the same time right now? Yeah. And did one come after the other one? If the atheist responds yes, Ibn Sina would say, well, that's a contradiction, because if you have the ordering condition, if you have the coexisting condition, it's that kind of infinity which the analogy of part-whole relationship that we've spoken about before would apply to. What it wouldn't apply to is if the atheist says, no, there was an infinite amount of universes. Some of them are no longer in existence, and some of them are still in existence. Now, I want to read this part out for you because it will help you understand. It's actually from Ibn Rushd. So Ibn Rushd is criticizing Ghazali, and you have to give it to Ibn Rushd. He's no small fish, because he's not represented in one of the three major schools of Sunni representation. People kind of just hand wave him off, but just look at what he actually says, because he has some significant contributions here. He says the following. So if you remember, Al-Ghazali said that if you have an infinite amount of things, then it would mean that you, for example, if the rotating planets, the planets rotated an odd number of time and an even number of time, and both of them, the odd numbers and even numbers would be the same, which is incoherent. Ibn Rushd is saying this. He says, this argument that numbered things must be judged as even or uneven, whether exists or not, is only valid so far as it concerns external things or things in the soul that have a beginning or end. For the number which exists only potentially, i.e. which has neither beginning nor end, it cannot truly be said that it's even or uneven, or that it begins or ends. It happens neither in the past or in the future. For what exists potentially falls under the law of non-existence. This is what the philosophers meant when they said what the circular movement of the past and future are non-existent. Okay, so what he's saying is this. Because Al-Ghazali, why is he bringing this argument? Because he's trying to negate the idea of an eternal universe. Ibn Sina believes on what? An eternal universe. Just like a lot of the other guys before him, like Kindi and Farabi, believe in this eternal universe. They were what you refer to as eternalists. So he's saying, look, I'm going to refute you logically, and he's saying that you can't have an eternal universe, because if you had an eternal universe, the revolutions of the planets would be both odd and even at the same time, and both are meant to be infinite, which means that you have two sets of infinite which are different. Ibn Rushd is responding, and he's saying the following. He's saying to Ibn Sina, to Al-Ghazali, in his book Incoherence of the Incoherence. Notice, Al-Ghazali's book was called what? Incoherence of the Philosophers. When he says incoherence of the philosophers, by the way, very important point, he's not talking about for all the philosophers. Al-Falasifa was a term that was used to refer to Ibn Sina and his followers. Do you understand this point?
All right. So here he's talking about these two conditions, which I'm not quite sure if he has laid the ground to have those conditions. Did you hear anything about those ground conditions for
So in the
ordering
previous week, ordering. What I have not understood even from the last video is so I understand the coexisting concept. What he's saying is that everything cannot exist at the same time, and I think he mentioned that in his debate as well. I don't understand the ordering aspect. I think or
no, but I think both of them
that?
need a justification. I'm not quite sure he has laid down any groundwork to
I think
establish that
he laid down that in the previous video, probably because he mentioned that.
Okay, then that's something that we are missing here, because I'm not quite sure, about that. Okay, let's assume that that he has some really good reason to assume that. Okay.
He's not talking, when Al-Ghazali is attacking, he's not attacking Aristotle and Plato. Yeah, this is not his intention. Al-Falasifa is an Arabic term, was Arabized term to refer to a specific group of people that had very specific beliefs. Essentially, Al-Ghazali was refuting Ibn Sina. He was not refuting all of the philosophers that ever existed or the idea of philosophy. That's a popular misconception. But all the secondary source material will tell you that's what's happening, okay? So what Ibn Rushd is saying to Al-Ghazali is saying, you got this all wrong. He's saying, you're saying, Al-Ghazali, with your Hilbert example, I mean, obviously that came afterwards, William Craig, but with your even and odd and all that kind of example, right? You're assuming that all of the revolutions of the planets exist at the same time. And you've misunderstood Ibn Sina, who said that infinity is only incoherent when it all exists at the same time. And since the revolutions of the planets don't exist at all time, you can't even bring the argument, okay? You can't bring the argument that an odd number of revolutions of the planets versus an equal number, because these revolutions don't exist. Once the revolution happens, it's done, it's finished. And by the way, this is a very strong counter argument. Can you see how strong the argument is? Can you see how what the problem is here?
No, I don't.
Okay, let me say again, right?
Did you guys get what Ibn Rushd's response is?
Saying, if you say that,
I think it's quite clever, and I think I didn't grasp it at the first time when I heard it, but I think now I get it later on when I heard it several times. What Ibn Rushd is actually saying. We get what he's saying and how he's responding to the objection.
Okay, I'll have to listen to it again, right? He's saying there is a contradiction, odd and even at the same time, simultaneously.
Imam Ghazali, I think Imam Ghazali, or I'm not sure, maybe Imam Ghazali has raised this objection that if something is infinite, or let's say if there's a planet which is orbiting, and so it is number of. So the question is, if it has been orbiting infinite number of times, then is the total number of revolutions, is it like odd or even? And their condition being, now remember, their condition for infinities to be impossible, one of them was coexistence, right? Now what Ibn Rushd is saying is, he's saying a revolution once it happens, it's happened. Now the next revolution is now happening, the previous one has ended, so it is not coexisting. All of these revolutions are not coexisting. So therefore, I think so it's not an issue for them. It's saying, okay, since it does not coexist, it's not an infinite, it's not an impossible infinity.
Yeah, so then it's a problem for B theorist, basically, right?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I was eating
Yeah,
something.
you sounded like you fell down.
You're
and
right,
then
but I think if you guys have watched the previous video, these guys don't adhere to the B theorist. I'm getting
Because
a
on A
feedback.
theory, the past,
yeah,
the
Yeah.
past,
Martin,
the future's not
Martin,
here.
a severe feedback from your side. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because we're talking over each other. But like an A theory, the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. All you have is what is the present, right? So you don't have this issue of infinite. You don't have the issue of
Yeah, because if
coexistence issue, right?
they had been B theorists, they would never have been they would never have raised this issue of coexistence, because everything would be coexisting at the same time anyways, right?
Exactly. And on
So I don't think
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and on Bay theory, there isn't that sort of addition or successive addition problem. Anyway, so but you will have a infinite chain that you'll have to grapple with. Yeah, I think William Lane Craig also believes that, right? The past has got. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you. But in B theory, how can they have infinite chain? I'm just trying to think. You're saying that you can have infinite chain in B theory?
Not like something that is happening one after another. It's all just present at the same time.
At the same time, right? Yeah. So there is no chain in B theory. Basically, everything is just right.
Depends what you mean by chain. I mean a set.
It's a one block. It's one
It's a
block,
set,
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not chain as in like one. Not set chain as in one, then two, then three, then four, then five, through time, or one after the other, like the dominoes falling. But you just imagine a block of dominoes, an infinite line of dominoes. Frozen, all there, present.
Yeah. You can say, but then it's still a block, right? Basically, I mean, there is no distinction of being, the only way to say that the time is passing, right? It's just the slices within those blocks, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it, pretty much. So yeah.
But you do have the problem. You do have the problem of how these things, you have the problem of the part and the whole is greater than the part, and the part is, you have that problem still in that situation. You still have the problem of if you conceptually took away two parts of this block. So if it's like a block of dominoes, you took two dominoes away. Have you subtracted from the infinite? These problems will still exist on, I think, Bay theory. So you still need the standard objections to those problems. That by just thinking about infinite differently to any other number. But I think I think on A theory, I think this. It avoids it avoids the issue of where is the even one or the odd one or all this stuff. So it's an interesting point, yeah.
So one more thing I'm asking Khayali here is because he remembers the last video that was covered, right, where they covered this coexistence and ordering issue. What exactly does this solve for them? I think one of the things that probably it solves for them is the infinite knowledge of the God they are talking about, right? So any infinities associated with God, I think their coexistence and the ordering issue is, it solves that, right?
I don't see how this. I could not
No, I
understand
mean,
how the ordering and the coexistence sort of
no,
condition.
ordering will definitely, but coexistence, you can always say that coexistence, different attributes
All
have always
coexist.
all coexist, right?
Yeah, they do.
right?
So
Then
I mean, what their response to that was, it only applies to spatio-temporal entities. That was their response.
yeah, then that's a cop out. That's
That
a special
cop out,
pleading, basically.
special
Yeah, that's
pleading,
a special
nothing else.
pleading, right? I mean, again,
It only
how
applies to 3D and 4D, and he even said this only applies to like 3D, 4D kind of entities. It does not apply to
so
anything.
this is
They make a
basically a
distinction
physical
between
entities, basically, right?
qualitative infinities and quantitative
Exactly.
infinities,
They also discuss, say that okay, this does not apply to qualitative, infinities.
which doesn't make
Which
any
how
sense.
would you, which does not make. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by qualitative
Yeah.
infinities? When it comes
Yeah,
to
what
God's
is
knowledge being infinite, I exist and Philo exists. These are two distinct facts. They're
Exactly.
there in God's knowledge,
yeah?
and
I,
there
I
are
mean,
infinite
what do you
distinct facts
say?
there in God's knowledge.
Does God know infinite number of things or not? Basically, that's the question, right?
They do believe God's knowledge is infinite.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, God's knowledge is infinite, there, but they can always appeal to qualitative issues here, right? Well, we don't know what. But do you? I mean, you'll have to ask them, like, really tear apart their argument and ask them, is there some number associated with those infinities, right? And then the answer is clear. God knows infinite number of things. Uh, God has very even if they are talking about qualitatively, there is a quantifiable number associated with it somewhere, right? I mean, you just can't say, and it's not love, right, or an emotion like pain. That's just not quantitative. I guess you if you go to a doctor, he'll
Love and pain.
put a
Yeah.
scale to that as well, and that will
Yes.
bring it down to a quantitative numbers.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. The distinction between quantitative and qualitative doesn't make sense here at all.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
because what is qualitative? Like, if are you thinking about immaterial thoughts? That's what they think is like a thought is qualitative. But my
But
thought
it's not.
exists. But
It's not.
exactly,
Thought exists.
my thought exists for a duration. I can think about I can think about Philo, Kylie, and me, and then I can think about myself.
It is stored somewhere in my brain physically in some
Well, of
form.
course, yeah. But I think they have this kind of, what they mean by qualitative is conceptually is logically possible for the mind to be just this immaterial thing, and that might be true. That may be true that the dualist conception is logically possible at the very minimum. That might be true. I'm not saying it is true. I know there are objections to that as well. It seems like it, right? I can imagine myself without my body and just thinking. So is that qualitative? And if that's qualitative, that's exactly what they want God to be, right? So the best example of God's knowledge is kind of the closest that we can get to think about it is our knowledge, because we're minds. And apparently God's knowledge of things, propositions, let's say, all true propositions or whatever you want to call it, true and false propositions, even, it'll be infinite or something, or knowledge of the numbers, knowledge of just like anything. Like, it could be like, does God know that water is wet, and is that true? And you can think of an infinite number of things, right? So apparently those propositions are not quantitative, because they're qualitative. I just don't understand what they mean by that. So they just mean it's immaterial, and therefore it doesn't have a size. It's not physical. It doesn't have matter. Therefore, but it can be quantified, right? Like, the number of propositions that God will hold. Like, if I'm holding 3 propositions in my head now, that is 3. If I think of 4 propositions, that's 4. That's 1 more than 3. So how is God? Yeah, so it's quantifiable.
Yeah, I mean, see, it's a very simple refutation to their argument. I think they can't hide behind this qualitative versus quantitative distinction, right? I don't think. I think there is no. I mean, even if there is a line, there is a very thin line between these two, and most of the times they are probably inseparable. I mean, you can always find a way to, uh, you know, substitute one over the other. Maybe you can say, hey, I'm having 15, maybe Mohs index of hardness is this, and then you can put it qualitatively, right? No, it's harder than a diamond, right? So then you'll say, oh, so is it Mohs index 10, right? Or no, it's softer than this, right? So softer is a qualitative term, basically, right? What is but then you put a number to it. Okay, so is it softer than a chalk? Probably. Then that becomes like a then you have a Mohs index of 2 or something like that, right?
But in the context of what we're talking about, propositions, there isn't much of a distinction. Imagine four bottles, a line of 4 bottles, physical bottles on the floor, right? Imagine that's really there in front of you. You can quantify it. Here's 1 bottle, here's 2 bottles, here's 3 bottles, here's 4 bottles. Now just imagine that those bottles don't exist in front of you, but in your head. You can still see the same thing. You can see the 4 bottles, right? You can quantify it. Here's 1 bottle, here's 2 bottles, here's 3 bottles, here's 4. What's the difference? They're both quantifiable. The difference between an imaginary bottle and a it's more to do with its location, presence, its mass, matter. One is in your head and one isn't, but they're both quantifiable, isn't it? Of course.
Right.
Yeah, I can imagine. The way I count 4 physical bottles is exactly the same way I count 4 mental bottles, 4 imaginary bottles. It's exactly the same way, right? I can close my eyes and count 4 bottles. I can imagine 4 of them, and I can count 4 bottles in the physical form. So in the same sense, if God has knowledge, infinite propositions, then I can count them. How does it make sense to say it has infinite, it has propositions of this many number, although infinity is not a number, but without not being able to count them.
Right. Okay. All right, let's move on.
An infinite amount of things in the past, because you have an eternal universe. That would indicate that the planets, you have an eternal universe, you have planets there all the time. Okay, let's assume Mars. Mars is revolving around itself, but Venus is also revolving around itself. So Mars has revolved around itself an even number of times, or let's say Mars is revolving around itself an even and an odd number of times at the same time, and both of them are infinite. And he says that's incoherent. Ghazali saying this. Why is it incoherent? Because it's revolving an odd and even number of times at the same time, and you can't have both mathematically. So he's making a mathematical argument. Who's making a mathematical argument? Who? Ghazali is making a mathematical argument. Okay. Ibn Rushd is saying you've missed a point. There's a difference. Ibn Rushd is saying there's a difference between a potential infinity and the what? And the what? Actual infinity.
All right. I think he has got the argument wrong. I think factually wrong. Not that logical. There is, of course, we are laying down the logical issues. I don't think Ghazali talks about the revolution of planets around themselves. I don't think that was a knowledge known to them at that point. From whatever I know of their works, they have always talked about the revolution of the planets around the Earth, right? So in these examples, whatever the examples of planets he's giving and he's saying, I think he's got it factually wrong. He's not saying what Ghazali has said, right? You guys can correct me, Khadi or Madin, if I'm wrong. That was not a knowledge known to before Kepler. That was not a knowledge known to any of these philosophers. Most of these, classical Islamic scholars, they had their cosmology borrowed from the Greeks, and I think they had a Ptolemaic worldview, and Ptolemaic worldview was very straightforward, geocentric worldview, basically, right? And that's where they are going. So I'm not, the planets are spinning around themselves was not a common knowledge. Was not even known to any of these guys until very, very late, by the way. So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to highlight that point.
Can you see the difference here? He's saying you've missed the point. He's saying these revolutions didn't actually take, once they've happened, they're finished now, they're gone. When the revolution happens, it no longer exists. So you can't say, you've missed the argument, because Ibn Sina is saying that they have to coexist. So you can't negate an eternal universe with your theory, he's saying. Do you see? You see the point here? So This is quite interesting because this conversation predates modern analytic philosophical conversations and mathematical conversations about a potential infinity and an actual infinity. This discussion about a potential and actual infinity is a modern discussion. Yet these guys are talking about it in the 13th century or the 11th century, 12th century. Yeah, they're speaking about it. And you can see here, Ibn Rushd is saying, so long as it's not an actual infinity, it's not a problem for us. And he gives some examples. Yeah, I'll tell you one example that he gives. He gives the example of the clouds and the water cycle. Okay, so he says this. He says, I'm writing this, but I'm quoting him. I'm kind of paraphrasing. He says, look, as a thought experiment, one may consider the example of the water cycle. So Ibn Rushd is saying this as a thought experiment. Let's consider the water cycle. Okay. Pre-existing, pre-eternal. So we've got an eternal universe and we have the water cycle. Okay, so this water cycle pre-exists, such that water comes from a cloud. Okay, then the cloud in question becomes vapor, and then the vapor comes from rain. Yeah, as such, since an actual infinity is not ordered and present at the same time, the threat of absurdities occurring is limited. So he's saying that if this happened, your ordering condition and your coexisting condition is not there. Therefore, you saying this odd and even argument and stuff, it doesn't make any sense, because the water has already been transformed, and the thing has been transformed again. Transformations have already taken place. Do you see how Ibn Rushd is responding? Yeah. But he also makes mistakes. I mean, Ibn Rushd, he has some absurd arguments.
Can I just to elucidate your point, when you have a particular orbit, are you saying that when it starts off at d0, it starts off at a certain distance?
Now they will do a back and forth
goes all the way around.
See, now here Subboor corrects what Hijab was saying and what I pointed out, right? He's correcting him. Orbit versus revolution, right? So an orbit is probably a more perhaps a better way to describe what Ibn Rushd and Ghazali were talking about, right? Not revolution. No, I don't think revolution is a word you can find in those works at all about planets. Of course, you can find it on other things, but not there.
No, but even that revolution, I think even the revolution, or even if you say the word orbit, what
I
they're
mean, revolution,
what
you can use revolution as a word, but revolution around Earth or around something, right?
Oh yeah.
He
Okay,
used the word revolution around themselves, right? And that's what I'm pointing at as a flaw, right? Because that's factually incorrect. That's not, I mean, factually in the sense that that's what not that these guys were writing. I mean, they didn't have that understanding at that point, right? So my point is not that that argument is bad. It's I'm pointing that Hijab is not using it correctly, right? What they're understanding, or what examples they were using, basically, right? Kelly?
Yeah, I get your point. I think
Yeah.
but I think from an argument perspective, this would stay the same way.
Yeah, totally. No questions there. You were saying something. They'll go back and forth and about it. Shall we move ahead then?
Yeah. Move a bit forward. Yeah, move ahead. Move ahead.
Do you have the timestamp?
What's the time right now? What's the timestamp?
It's about 26:54 in this.
Okay, so water cycle is going on. We'll discuss outlines of condition which the infinity is considered coherent by these thinkers. So I think
Shall we move on to letter ahead, because they'll go on. They'll just keep talking
just
about
move a bit
infinities.
forward. Yeah, just like through your keyboard, and then let's see, because I think they will spend some time on this.
Maghrib break, inshallah. We can pray Maghrib. We'll come back and then we'll go through some of the other things.
If this content has strengthened you, courage, a credible.
So I understood what you mentioned around, it will just return to point D0. I understood it slightly differently in the idea that to even suggest that there is an odd or even number of rotations initially is preposterous, because it's always been eternally revolving. So from that perspective, that's why it would be incoherent.
Okay, I think you're not wrong, but let me just make sure that everyone understands what we're talking about here. So look, Al-Ghazali, he's trying to prove that infinity does not exist in the real world. Yeah. Ibn Sina has the same exact motivation. Both of them are trying to show that infinity can't exist. All right. And the reason why it's important, Ali, as well, is because this always comes up. Okay. If you get into higher level discussion with atheists, the idea of an infinite regress is the heart of that debate. Okay. I'm telling you where I stand on this. I think Ibn Sina's got a better approach. I don't think Al-Ghazali's approach is wrong, but I think it can't be used alone, especially for someone who knows the counters. And I'll explain why. Al-Ghazali is trying to repudiate an eternal universe. Okay. He says you can't have an eternal universe because if you have an eternal universe, you imagine a planet in the universe. It keeps revolving. Let's assume that that planet revolves an odd number of time. But can it revolve an odd number of time and an even number of time at the same time? So he says, therefore, you have two sets of infinity within infinity. You have the even set and the odd set, and both of them are infinite, which is absurdity. Therefore, infinity is false in the past. Now, Ibn Rushd is responding, and he's defending Ibn Sina, saying this is not what we're talking about, because when the rotation happens, it ceases to exist after that. It doesn't stay in existence, does it?
Right.
Do you understand?
What's the spin you're talking about here?
Okay, so imagine you've got a planet.
Yeah.
It revolves around itself, right? Like the Earth, it revolves around itself. Now assume that you believe in an eternal universe. Okay, eternal universe. This planet's always been there, and it's always been spinning.
See, this is what I was talking about. He's using maybe he's using it as his own example there. Maybe, I don't know.
I think
Ghazali.
I think it's fine though, because it's not that relevant to the argument that he's making, right? He's probably historically wrong.
Okay. So has it been spinning an odd number of times, or has it been spinning an even number of times? So Al-Ghazali would say, if you want to say this planet spun infinite amount of times, you would have to maintain that this planet spun both an odd number of times and an even number of times at the same time, which would make it an absurdity, because infinity you'd have an odd set and an even set.
You can't add a subtract.
Right. So Ibn Rushd now, he's saying, but when the planet spins, brother, he's saying to Ibn Sina, to Al-Ghazali, he said, brother, you've misunderstood Ibn Rushd is saying this. He misunderstood Ibn Sina, because when the planet spins, the spinning is stopped now. So when the spinning has finished once, it comes out of existence. There's no more spin.
What do you mean? It's come out of existence.
Okay, so what I mean is, when you add things together, I'm adding this 1 plus 2 plus 3. Okay, now I've got 3 things together here like this. If I keep adding things together, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Look, I've got things together like this. Yeah.
Okay.
If I keep going like this, and I have an infinite amount of these in the ordered way that I've just done it, everyone agrees you can't have that. You can't have an infinite amount of things like that.
Okay.
Now, Ibn Sina agrees, Ibn Rushd agrees, Al-Ghazali, everyone agrees you can't have it. Why? I'll tell you why in a second. Yeah. But everyone agrees with that. But here he's saying the similitude of the planet spinning is not the same as putting these things together like this. Because when the planet spins, you're not now adding a new thing to a thing. When the planet spins, it's come out of the spin, it's come out of existence.
Once it completes its cycle, that's what you mean.
Yeah. Once it's done its cycle, you're not adding things to things.
How is it infinite? Then it disappears out of cycle.
So he's saying that when this.
Yeah. I think he's not not explaining it properly because of the words that he's using. Out of existence. I think I know what he means, obviously, but he needs to. There's a missing explanation here, which is explaining how the past and the present and the future are not real things. Oh, sorry, yeah, they're not may not be real things. I think that's one way to do it. Otherwise, how are you going to explain this? Because
I think I'm of the opinion that he doesn't understand the argument himself, probably.
Yeah. On A theory, because on A theory, the past spins do exist. It exists in the past, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, sorry, is that right? Yeah.
No.
In A theory, they are gone. They are disappeared.
They're gone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. It disappears. Yeah. The past disappears. So I didn't say it right. So on A theory, the past disappears, so it doesn't exist. It needs, and he would need to explain it like that. The only way to explain it in the way that because he's trying to counter the common sense intuitions that once is revolved once, revolved twice. The past is like some physical thing that exists, right? That the past is a real thing that you just left behind. So there's 3 spins that has happened, right? But if you get rid of the idea, the notion that the past isn't a real thing, it's a mental construct, right? It's only the present that exists, because the past is, you only have the memory of the past, but it's not really there. It's not like a physical thing. that you've left behind. It's not like a road where you look back and then there's you look back at the road that you left behind. There is no road behind you. And in the same sense, the past doesn't exist in that sense. It's not a physical thing. It's not like a dimension, right? And if that's the case, then it makes sense to say it's gone out of existence or something like that. Now, this is a really difficult, complicated area of philosophy of time. It's but he needs to explain that part, I think, before going into saying words like it's gone out of existence. The difference between the past, present, and the future. Because I think it was a philosopher called Mick Taggart, and William Lane Craig talks extensively about it as well, to explain why the past and the future are fictions. They're not real. They're not. Yeah, it's not. And if you watch William Lane Craig debate Alex Malpass on this and the subsequent reviews on this, the heart of the debate is on this, where there isn't. William Lane Craig disagrees with Alex Malpass to say that there's a different how Malpass questions. So this is very difficult. Malpass questions William Lane Craig. If you take out five jelly beans from a jar, how many jelly beans have you taken out in the? How many jelly beans are now on the, or something like that? To press him on it, and he was in William Lane Craig. I can't remember it, so you need to go see it and review it, because I can't remember the exact example. I think it was jelly beans or it was angels or something like that. If how many angels have spoken, has said yes to something or a command. And William Lane Craig said would seemingly be. I think he initially said it'll be zero because it's the past. The past doesn't exist, or something like that. And the whole point was, I think, in the post-review debate with Wes Morriston, Alex Malpass, and I think it was another philosopher's last name is London something. Or yeah, I think the whole debate was that is the absurdity that William Lane Craig has to accept, that he would not have counted anything, or he's not counting towards anything by saying that the past and the future are not real. So this is actually a very complicated thing, but they're not. Hijab is not really explaining it well. I don't think I'm explaining it very well, because it's actually a very difficult area of philosophy. Yeah.
I think this can be explained slight bit easier way, right? And that is, then what he has to do is you can say if and this is to take up Ghazali's example, right? I think Ghazali used Jupiter and Saturn. Maybe I'm wrong about that, right? But he talked about if you say take the even number of rotations, right? Set A is or rotations numbered 1, 3, 5, 7, right? So odd number of rotations, right? Then you say set number B is the even number of rotations, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, right? These rotations. Now the claim is all the sets are infinite, right? Set of odd rotations is also infinite, and the set of even rotations is also infinite. So therefore, a proper part, which is either odd number of rotations or the even number of rotations, is the same as the total number of rotations, right? Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, count to infinity, right? So the whole, I mean, sorry, I misspoke. So the parts are same as the whole. So I hope I was able to explain it slightly bit better, right? So that can't be true. So they can't coexist, basically, and that's what the argument is by Ghazali, right? So maybe it made a little bit more sense, right? Kelly, is that good, or do you want to add something to it? I think this is probably the same example that Ghazali used, right?
I mean, since I have not exactly heard what Ghazali has said, I'm just relying on what Hijab is saying. So
yeah, no, I remember having read this or maybe seen in some video long time back, maybe who was talking about it? Maybe Qaiser Ahmed Raja was talking about. Or somewhere I heard this, right? But yeah. Anyways, so I think this is the argument basically, which Hijab wasn't probably able to explain it in a more cohesive way or better explanatory.
I'll be honest. My intuition on the part and greater than the whole stuff just falls apart on infinity, and that's probably the exact way you should be thinking about it, right? Because when I think about an infinity,
I think these points are extremely hard to grapple around, right? I mean, you can come up with odd, even. You can come up with prime numbers. You can come up with any number of different,
because in my
split it
estimation,
apart, right?
In my estimation, a part of an infinite being equal to an infinite does make sense simply because when we start talking about as part of an that's not the right way of framing it in the first place, right? We're not really referring to a smaller subsection of a bigger whole. There isn't a smaller subsection in that sense. So if for example the total number of numbers is infinite, and the total number of equal numbers will also be infinite, then how is the part equal to the whole? It can't be the case. It has to be the case that part must be smaller than the whole, right? The whole point is, I think the intuitions fall apart here because that is not a part in that sense, not in the same mathematical sense, in the same sort of greater than, smaller than sense. Greater than, smaller than intuitions fall apart entirely. And if you think about it like that, then it's not an issue. Because I can imagine this. I can imagine an infinite line, and I can see myself counting that what I'm referring to, quote unquote, as a part, because I have no other way of it referring to it due to my limitations of language, right? But referring to the part as in here's one odd number, here's another odd number, here's another odd number, and then when I start counting the total number of numbers, I can start seeing that it looks like it's more. But if I went forever in both directions of this chain, of this infinite block, if you want to call it, or whatever, right? It is there is just as many. There's just as many odd numbers as there are total numbers. But there is no contradiction.
No, but the issue, Madan, is right. What you're saying is incorrect, because in Cantorian mathematics, both are transfinite. Both are transfinite infinities, right?
Talk about larger infinities and smaller.
No. So the one is not, even if your intuition tells you that one infinity is larger than the other infinity, so it seems to you.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. That then here we can't rely on that intuition, right?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. So what I am saying is that my intuitions on this falls apart. Exactly. The Cantorian way of thinking about it actually makes sense, whereas the intuitions probably don't.
Yeah. But when I see.
But I can conceive of this being non-contradictory. It just seems to be an issue with our language, right? I don't see any issue with the idea that some of the odd numbers are equal to the total numbers, right?
In some set theoretic way, right? In some set theoretic way, not in arithmetic way, right? Because that will be absurd, right? That's why I think we need to move away from our thinking of these infinities in arithmetic way, and then move on to that set theoretic way, because that's why these guys, I think this they keep jumping from one domain of mathematics to the other, and that's why they feel that there is an absurdity, and I think there is no absurdity right there. I think if you think properly through just the set theoretic way, infinities, don't take infinities as numbers. That's about it. That's your solution, right?
Yeah, you got to think about it in two different senses. It's a part to whole relation in the sense of greater than it's a part to whole relation in a completely different sense, because all I'm doing is referring to. I'm referring to different parts of the set, but it's not quantifiably greater than. Yeah, than the whole. Yeah, it's not quantifiably the case that one is more than the other.
No, I think it's you can't even use any quantifiable comparators, so to speak.
Yeah,
You can't say it's greater than, you can't say it's equal to, you can't say it's less than.
Yes.
You just can't compare them, basically.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about it just purely without thinking about language or math, there's nothing inconsistent or contradictory about this. Yeah. All you got to do is imagine behind every odd number there is another number, an even number, and behind that one there's another odd number, and you can identify them, and it goes on infinitely, and the whole and the entire set is equal to the set of equal numbers or odd numbers, right? The only way the intuition shows that it's a contradiction is if you're imagining finite sets. That's when it starts getting contradictory. When you imagine finite sets, yes, but when you think about infinite sets, the fact that both are the same in actual number, there's not a problem. Yeah, that is I think going down the contour, going down thinking about it in transfinite ways. There's no real problem, and I can actually conceive that as well, and I don't see an issue with it.
Right. All right. Shall we move ahead then? Let's see. Fairly where do we move to now? Oh, I think they're gonna just debate and discuss here, right? Is that true?
I think so. Yeah, just move. I think 5 minutes ahead.
The philosopher, or like Ibn Sina, Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, and Ibn Rushd, and At-Tusi, and those kinds of guys, they believed in an eternal universe.
Ibn Taymiyyah as well?
No, he didn't believe in that. He believed in perpetual creation to the past. This is a little bit different.
Why not to the future? I'm just curious.
He does. There's no problem with the future. I don't think anyone disagrees with the future.
Okay, so he because there's no problem. There's ijma. He said he believes this is
in the past,
pre-eternal as well.
Yeah. So, but these guys, this collection of thinkers, believed in an eternal universe, and they took that.
One of the questions that I have, and this is for you two as well, I think, and this is just I'm wondering about, just thought about it. Why do they have to? Why are they so hell bent on just trying to say that, hey, universe can't be past eternal? I mean, can they not have a god where the universe is, not? I mean, can they not
they
have
can't.
a god where
they cannot? I mean, at least these people cannot. There are two issues with that, according to them. One is that they cannot think of anything other than God being eternal. Number two, I think they will have a problem with the contingency argument.
That's just their belief, right? I mean,
No, but they are providing their arguments for this, right?
Yeah,
this is what they're trying to do here, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying they could as well have an eternal, and of course, see how many number of philosophers already believed it, right? Ibn Rushd believed it, Al-Kindi believed it, right? Ibn Sina believed it, in eternal universe, right? They didn't have a problem.
Sina was a non-Muslim according to them.
No, yeah, they were heretics, right? Pretty much, but they considered themselves to be Muslim, and that's why I'm wondering. I mean, there's no as such formal logical contradiction within that worldview as well, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a huge issue for them to have that eternal universe. I mean, it's as if the whole world will fall apart for them, pretty much, right? I'm pretty sure if that's somehow proven to be true, that universe is eternal, I think that won't make an iota of a difference in their worldview as well. Pretty much, they'll just readjust it to fit into that worldview, pretty much, right? That universe is eternal. Okay.
From Aristotle. Aristotle believed in the same thing.
Okay, but the thing is, we have hadith that
they're not talking about hadith. These guys are not interested in that.
Ibn Taymiyyah.
No, Ibn Taymiyyah, that's a different issue. Now we're going to scriptural.
Okay, from scripturally, we don't believe this, correct?
Which what?
That there's pre-eternal and post-eternal.
No, that's not an Islamic belief. The idea of an eternal universe.
And why did Ibn Taymiyyah believe in it?
He didn't believe in an eternal universe. He believed in
no. That Allah was perpetually creating to the past and to the future.
No, he made an argument from that. Scripturally, he made an argument for that. He made an argument. I can explain to you the argument maybe later because that will.
Is it off topic?
It's a bit off topic, a little bit off topic. But he wrote a whole book on the hadith of Kana Allah wa lam yakun shay'un ma'ahu wa kana arshuhu 'ala al-ma', which is the hadith of what do you call it? Ibn Hussein, Imran ibn Hussein. Yeah. Which is that God was there and nothing was with him, and his arsh is on the water.
Yeah, Allah was there.
And Ibn Taymiyyah made ta'wil of it. He said, well, the water was there, wasn't it? So he had his arguments.
No, but there is a point when, like me, can I hold the position as a Muslim that Allah was there alone and there was not?
Yeah, that is the position of the majority of Muslims.
Yeah, okay, right.
And there was the first creation. That's the scriptural position of the Muslim people.
Because otherwise, it's like maybe like we fall into the Christian issue with, that the Father existed because it begot the Son eternally or something like that. Because the thing is, you're basically trying to say Allah had a creation with Him always.
No, but it's once again, Ibn Taymiyyah's position wasn't that Allah had a thing with him always. Is that he created something, so he created this, then that thing came out of existence, and he created this, and that thing. Did you get it? So they didn't coexist.
Okay, good. But was there a moment where Allah created a thing first? And
no, according to him, no. According to him,
no. How could it be not?
He makes an argument for that through perpetual creation. He says
but then if that's the case, that means Allah's been coexisting with His creation.
No, but you're using the word creation. He would argue. Ibn Taymiyyah would argue. You'd say that you're using the word creation equivocally, right? Because he's coexisting with a creation, not exactly the creation. So the eternalist position is
a creation. Okay, he was always existing with a creation.
With a creation, yeah.
Why? Because what you're doing now is you're saying that Allah always was existing with a creation.
Yeah. What's incoherent about that? He would say
because it's to me it's problematic theologically. Like for example, first we have hadith narrations that says that it was Allah alone.
Yeah. So this is why I agree with you. I think the arguments that can be made, the best arguments, are scriptural arguments. It's hard to.
Shall we move ahead? Yeah.
This is Ali Dawah's biggest, most remarkable moment in his life, I think, making this point. No, I'm being serious. I've never seen him so coherent before.
Yeah. I think he's upped his IQ by maybe 5 or 10 IQ points or something like that.
Yeah. No, because this is a very good point he's making, and I don't usually see Ali Dawah. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Show the illogicality of this.
No, it depends what you mean by logic. Like we believe Allah is necessary and independent because
let's say universes for the sake of argument, right? The kind of infinity that Al-Ghazali is against.
Hello, I think we should watch Ali Dawah's little squabble here with Hijab, because I think
look, Al-Ghazali says if events are happening infinitely,
that would be initiated. So the universe has to have, or whatever you call it, universe or call it, but with Aql itself, because with the advance,
it's hard to show the illogicality of this.
No, it depends what you mean by logic. Like we believe Allah is necessary and independent because of this very reason. If we come and say Allah is necessary, but He's always.
So I think if Hijab is agreeing with the fact that there's nothing illogical, I think what I would raise a concern from their perspective is, what that would mean is that Allah has been creating in terms of time this universe, the universe that we live in. There were an infinite number of universes before, created and destroyed before it, right? So an infinite regress of at least an eternal time is something that they will have to assume eternal then, even from a creation's perspective. So I'm saying that
right. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
that's right. That's one of the things that we've always put forward, that it all existed with God. Well, God's first action eternally existed. Time itself was.
Yeah, there was no time when time didn't exist, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. However, I think one problem still being in this view is that it still seems that God is sort of working or acting. In sequence.
No, but the thing is, no, it depends what you mean by logic. Like we believe Allah is necessary and independent because of His very reason. If we come and say Allah is necessary, but He's always.
So look, Al-Ghazali says if events are happening infinitely,
No,
Yeah,
So
that's kind of the absurdity. That's the absurd. It's not a contradiction,
yeah.
right? It's an absurdity, right? It's an absurdity that just that these guys just overlook basically, or just uh, push it under the rug, basically, right?
Being existing with a contingent being.
Yeah, but it's not the same contingent being.
It's like Allah's contingent on that.
No. That's not.
Okay,
that's not. That's a.
Can't this be settled with Aql itself? Because with the advancements of understanding the universe in terms of how the universe, the Big Bang, etc., has a starting point. If it's got a starting point, I mean,
yeah. If you believe in the Big Bang,
this is way before the Big Bang. This is
no, but it's a good point.
What I'm saying is, if something is a necessary being,
yeah.
So the something that has to exist for anything to be initiated, that indicates that anything that comes subsequent to that would be initiated. So the universe has to have, whatever you call it, universe or call it a fluidity, whatever it may be, it has an independent requirement, a dependency on something without a contingency to exist.
Yeah, I mean that's the argument we're making. Obviously, that's the traditional.
Because the infinite regress is effectively, like, I remember probably the same example in Ghazali in terms of if events can happen infinitely in the past, then we will never come into existence because we're not infinitely away from.
Yeah. So what would okay, good. So that's a good way of putting it. He's saying if events can happen infinitely to the past, right? Well, Ghazali is making the argument. If events can happen infinitely to the past, us coming into existence is adding to infinity, right? What would Ibn Rushd respond and say based on what we've just covered? What would he say?
What's the question again?
So look. So look. Al-Ghazali says if events are happening infinitely into the past, and if you add to it, so the birth of you or me, right? You add to events that happen infinitely to the past, then you're adding to infinity. What would Ibn Rushd respond to, and Ibn Sina respond to Al-Ghazali and say?
Nothing's been added.
Nothing's actually being added.
Yeah, not simultaneous. Yeah.
Because they don't actually all exist all at the same time. You see?
The thing is, he's mapping something conceptual to something tangible, which is, I mean, I don't see, I'm not able to conceptualize this because something that's just tangible, for example, what you put down there, that's a tangible thing, whereas events, continuum and all this doesn't necessarily fit into the same kind of thing.
Well, either or. So you can say that if we're talking about movement, if we're talking about time, or if we're talking about physical, let's say universes for the sake of argument, right? The kind of infinity that Al-Ghazali is against, Ibn Rushd is saying is a you're confusing potential and actual infinity. That's what he's saying.
Does this relate? Just remember we spoke about this before. Can we say that there is anything as present moment? There isn't, because we're perpetually going to the future.
All right. Yeah,
is this what he's trying to say? Like there is no present moment because it's like we're perpetually going to the future.
Okay, so this goes
to as one situation happening rather than.
No, that's more about theories of time: A theory, B theory, or C theory, and we covered that last session, but we can cover it later.
Yeah, no, I thought.
Maybe we can say this. Okay, depending on your theory of time. Okay, that's why William Lane Craig. What did he defend? Who remembers? We said this last week. The A theory of time, which is what?
Dynamic.
Yeah.
Time is
it flows.
It flows, right? What's the B theory of time?
Block.
Yeah.
That time is a block. Okay, so depending on how you conceptualize time, and what do they say? What are some of their evidences that they use from physics? That time starts with R here. Think about Einstein. Relative, right? So they call it the space-time what? Continuum. So they're saying that just because something is present for me, Ali, on your question, it doesn't mean it's present for you. Depending on what time, what kind of motion you're going at, where you are in the universe, at what speed you're going at, etc. So you have to settle that dispute before we talk about present, future, and past. So that's an important point. I wouldn't. That's why I'm saying I'm trying to get you away from that because it is a back and forth. It's a proper back and forth, and it can't be settled easily. You know, I'm trying to get you away from that. So you understand. We understand now as a group. I don't think there's any questions or any confusions about the fact that there's something called a potential infinity, and there's the other one called what? Actual infinity. So let me ask you this, just to make sure that we're on the same page. Let me ask you all this. You have Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, and Al-Ghazali. All three of them are saying that down. Let's say you've got an atheist. The atheist says the following statement. Would they agree or disagree? The atheist says you've got an infinite amount of universes called the multiverse. Would they agree or disagree? Would there be a difference between them? That all exist at the same time.
Ibn Sina would say that can't be true.
Yeah. Who else would say that?
Ibn Rushd.
Yeah. And who else would say that?
Ghazali.
So all of them would disagree with the idea of an infinite amount of universes all existing at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one came after the other, and there's one universe. So that kind of infinity. Why now? Now here's the question. They have different ways of reasoning. Yeah. Okay. Al-Ghazali's reason for saying that this infinite amount of universes existing at the same time can't be true is different to the way Ibn Sina and Ibn Rushd would argue. How would Ibn Sina say what the reason why?
Ibn Sina would say if you have an infinite amount of universes as one set, and then you had less than that as another set, then then you have, set 1, which has an infinite amount of universes, set 2, which also has an infinite amount of universes, but it's supposed to be one less.
Yeah.
So what you're essentially saying is, these 2 sets are the same, and that can't be true.
Yeah, because the part is
lesser than, it's supposed to be lesser than the whole, but
in this case it would be
equal to.
Yeah, so that's an absurdity, it's a contradiction. Because the point is this: when you argue with an atheist about infinite regress, what you have to demonstrate, if you want to show them that an infinite regress of actual universes or whatever it may be can't exist, you have to demonstrate the contradiction in that. Okay, if you want to say something is wrong, you have to demonstrate the contradiction. If we say the Trinity is wrong, say why? Because the Father is meant to be God, the Son is meant to be God, the Holy Spirit is meant to be God, but there's not 3 gods but 1 God. So it breaks the law of identity, it breaks the law of this, it breaks the law of that, law of non-contradiction. You show them exactly why they're wrong. If you're saying that's wrong and that's it, and you can't demonstrate of universes, is if they say no, well, by taking something as Ghazali, because Ghazali is saying that how can you add to infinity? Then says there's an infinite time which we can demonstrate.
I think this is the same argument that's going on again and again. I think we've already pointed out problems with it, right? Shall we move on to, let's say, some
versus the real world?
Some
no,
other
I'm saying versus the real world that I know of.
Okay, so what you know of is the truth.
Yeah, let's move on to 5.
Show that everything is tight, bro.
To the creator.
The coexisting condition. You say these things don't apply to whom? God and his knowledge.
What do you mean?
Let me tell you why. Let me explain. This is very important, okay? Because this objection we went through last week.
Okay, let's listen to this. Which objection doesn't apply to? I think that's the same, the order and,
So do you see the point? Yeah. So if you say, okay, the ordering condition, the coexisting condition, you say these things don't apply to whom? God and his knowledge.
What do you mean?
Let me tell you why. Let me explain. This is very important, okay? Because this objection we went through last week, I'm making sure that everything is tight, bro. Because maybe some atheist hasn't asked you this question yet, but they'll clock onto it.
When you asked me, I was like, I didn't understand what you meant.
Okay, this is an objection that's mentioned in many parts of the literature, and in fact, in my debate in South Africa, they brought it up. Yeah.
Okay. What is it?
The question is this: if you make loose statements about infinity, the point is this: if you make loose statements about infinity, and they then throw a boomerang on you, okay, infinity can't exist in the real world. Okay, what about God's knowledge? Is that in the real world? Does God truly exist, etc.? Right? Yeah. It will jam you. Okay, so you have to be. It will jam you because. Okay, let me do this again. Right? Let me do this again with you.
Yeah.
Do you believe infinity can exist? Actually.
To the creator, yes.
Only for okay, so infinity can exist. You can have an infinite regress, no problem.
No, I said to the creator.
Only for the creator.
Regress, the creator
how can you prove that it's only for the creator?
Yeah, because I've got the argument of contingency.
Yeah, all right. So how can you prove that with the argument of contingency? Are you trying to disprove an infinite amount of dependent things?
Yes.
And how do you disprove an infinite amount of dependent things?
If there was infinite amount of dependent things, we would not have a starting point, which we require necessary being to give rise to the dependent things.
How so?
Because you can't have an infinite regress of dependent things.
Let's say we don't have a starting point, but things are not coming in and out of existence.
No problem, they're still dependent.
What I'm saying is that you've got one thing
in and out. It's like quantum physics.
No, what I'm saying is that like you're saying an infinite amount of things, right? Infinite amount of.
No, I don't believe in infinity. There is an infinite amount of things.
So do you believe in infinity in God's knowledge?
No, I believe God is all knowing.
So do you believe he's infinitely knowledgeable?
Of course.
Okay, so you do believe in infinity.
I never said I don't. I said in the real world.
Okay, so what do you mean by the real world then?
The real world within our universe.
Oh, so the universe is the real world. What about outside the universe is not the real world?
No, it depends. It goes back to the definition.
So if you go to another universe, your God says in the Quran there's 7 heavens. So the second heaven is not the real world, huh?
No, we're not saying that. Within our universe, within our universe, there is no infinity.
Yeah, I understand you're saying this universe. Yeah, but I'm saying what gives you that right?
Why did you slow down in your speech?
What gives you that right? As a coward, that's what. I'm a coward.
Yeah, why so timid so far? I'm joking. Yeah, so
intellectually, bro.
Intellectually, I'll say if within the universe, I'll say about the universe.
Why the universe? Who cares about the universe?
Dependent or independent?
Why the universe? Why do we care about this universe?
I'll tell you what. Is the universe dependent?
Who cares?
I will ask.
I don't care. I'm saying you're talking about infinity.
No, I don't care.
This universe is not the only area of assessment.
I'm saying, in between, they'll sort of show how they react when they're a bit stuck. Like, why are you stuttering and all of these things? All these debate tactics. They laugh at it, but I think these are the kind of tactics that they use.
They do it to each other as well.
Well,
exactly. Yeah, they're doing it to each other.
Here as well. I think
Hijab's way of doing things. But the thing is,
you have to learn.
Mohammed Hijab wanted to, for example, use arguments against an abstract infinity, right? Part is not, the part can't be equal to the whole, the contradictions, and then move to saying, all right, if that's the case, then you can't have an infinite But then if that's the case, how could God's knowledge be infinite? And show that. Ali Dawah, he wanted to play that game with Ali Dawah just to show, because he wanted to explain to Ali Dawah that there's a problem where if you think that actual infinities cannot exist, or an infinite set can't exist, or through, an infinite set can't exist, infinite number of items can't exist, etc., then the atheist can go, oh, well, God's knowledge is infinite. There's a contradiction, and if you think that that cannot exist in the real world, then God obviously exists in the real world in some sense. Then God doesn't exist. He wanted to get Ali Dawah to that, but Ali Dawah kind of just went down a different route. He started saying, no. He believes that an infinite number of dependable things, can't exist or something like that. Contingent things, right? And God is different or something like that. So Ali Dawah didn't go down playing that game, and I think Hijab should have just reinforced to Ali Dawah that we're not talking about the contingency argument, right? Because we're talking about if we deny, it's a closed system here. We don't need to talk about the contingency. If we say there cannot be an infinite number of things, then by force of that argument, you can't have an infinite number of propositions in God's knowledge. There's a problem there for the theist. Right? Well, Ali Dawah just went down the contingency route, completely forgetting what he's talking about. That it's not making any references to dependable, right? None of this comes in.
You know what?
If Ali Dawah was to say, for example, he only thinks infinite number of dependable things can't exist, but an infinite set can exist, then there's no contradiction between God's knowledge of propositions being infinite, or B theory being infinite, or an infinite set of coins or something. There's no contradiction between that. The atheist can think an infinite number of stars can exist, or an infinite chain can exist, and simultaneously, Ali Dawah thinks that is also possible, and at the same time, therefore, God's knowledge, there's no inconsistency, right? So they forgot about the debate that the discussion that they're having by Ali Dawah introducing this contingency stuff. Because he's actually narrowing the focus to saying now that no, dependent things, contingent things can't exist, but God's knowledge can, right? But Hijab's entire point was broader than that. Hijab was attacking the notion of actual infinite in and of itself, not just dependable, whatever, right? Dependable or independent, whatever. He's thinking about infinite, much more broadly, which was the whole point of the conversation.
Yeah, but maybe he'll come down to the same path where Ali Dawah is right now, because he has to come there, right? Somehow.
I was about to say that now he's saying that
he's playing a devil's advocate right now. He's playing devil's advocate.
But when
as of now.
Yes, the ultimate argument that he will give is that this only applies to spatio-temporal entities.
Yes, that's what I don't think exactly. I don't think Hijab accepts Ali Dawah because it's not good enough, right? Yeah. Because that means he has to get rid of the arguments that he's been talking about all this time, which is if you have an infinite set, wouldn't the
is it V for vendetta?
Yeah,
against Ali Dawah.
Yeah, because he will have to give up that argument. Yeah. You'll have to give up the argument that you can't just have an infinite. It'll be more nuanced. It'll be you can't have infinite slices.
Ali Dawah is not cogent, by the way. He's not cogent enough to have this. We gave him a few brownie points, but then he's back to his original self now, right? He's just, he just can't put forth that these deep arguments.
Yeah, forget him. Let's not make a personal attack on him. But the point, the point is,
not a personal attack. That's not a personal attack. You can see it, right? It's right there in this 5-minute snippet that he has been talking about it, right?
No, I think he's been pretty cogent to some extent, but he probably misses the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's missing the bigger picture here, which is that Hijab's point is much more broad than that. And if you make such a broad point, then it attacks God as well, right? They have to be selective with the infinities. And yes, Ali Dawah is trying to say only dependable objects, etc., etc. But then why speak about it broadly in the first place? Hijab is talking about if we make this broad argument, then this is the problem, right? Well, Ali Dawah is missing the point, right? And as Kylie said, ultimately they'll have to go into the spatio-temporal or whatever argument. I call it the qualitative distinction. That will be the ultimate one, because that way they can still maintain the idea that an infinite cannot exist. An infinite set of milk bottles cannot exist, but an infinite God with infinite knowledge can exist, because one is quantitative, which can't exist, and one is qualitative, which can exist. Yeah, but if you go down the contingency argument line, then it's only more to do with dependability and stuff, right? Which is more to do with stuff like successive addition and stuff, right? If you have a infinite chain of milk bottles and they're necessary or something, then that can exist, right? Hijab's broader point would say even a necessary set of milk bottles can't exist because it's quantitative. So Hijab's point is stronger than Ali Dawah's, and that's what they were entertaining. And Ali Dawah took it a different direction and weakened it a bit. Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on? Kelly, you want to add anything to it?
No, move on.
I want to talk about.
You can have this universe. You can have an outside universe. You can have a third or fourth universe.
Let's talk about this universe.
Why?
Because I want to.
No.
Why are you afraid to talk about it?
We're talking about infinity in a broad sense.
Is
It's in the real world.
dependent or independent?
Is the real world and the universe the same thing?
What do you mean?
No. Answer my question. Is the real world and the universe the same thing?
What's our definition of real world?
Is your definition of the real world the universe?
My definition of the real world, yes.
Yeah.
Is dependent things within our universe. I believe the universe is dependent.
Oh, so your definition of the real world is the universe?
Yes, and the universe is dependent.
Okay, prove that. Prove that.
What do you mean?
Prove that the only thing in the real world is the universe.
No. I'm saying, I'm talking about
prove it.
our known universe.
No, I want you to prove it.
Yes, the universe is dependent.
How? Prove it. No, prove that the only thing in the real world is the universe. Prove that, please.
Say again?
Prove that you said the real world and the universe are basically the same thing.
No,
right?
I'm talking about the real world that I know of is the universe. I mean
the real world and the universe you said are the same thing. Okay?
No,
so,
I said the real world.
No, you said the universe and the real world.
I talk about
sure. So prove that the real world is the universe.
Okay, within our realm, I know the universe.
How do you prove that?
I don't know outside the universe.
How do you prove that the universe is the real world?
No, I'm saying that is the real world that I know of.
Okay, so what you know of is the truth. So you're confusing epistemology and ontology.
No, I'm just asking a simple question.
No, I'm asking you a question, which is that this universe is the real world or not? Is the universe the real world?
Run away.
How am I running away?
It's a simple question. Is the universe dependent or independent?
No, that's got nothing to do with anything.
There you go.
We're talking about infinity.
Oh, you're a coward.
Okay, look.
That's what we'll have to do, right? There's nothing else I can do.
No, but what you could do, what you could do is do.
Okay, go on.
Listen to what I'm saying carefully, right?
Okay.
If someone asks you about infinity, you have to be careful about the response, okay? Because if you make a loose statement, they will use it against you in the attributes of God.
So how should I word it then?
So the way I think.
Okay, tell me how should I word it and how they would catch me out.
If you make a loose statement about infinity, such as that the infinity cannot exist, or there's infinity is impossible, okay?
Yeah, I always make that statement though.
Yeah, but I'm saying that
how they catch me.
So let me explain again, right? Yeah. If you make a loose statement about infinity, okay, they'll say if you make a generalized loose statement about infinity, they'll take your loose statement and your generalized loose statement and they'll apply it to the attributes of God. They'll say, okay, if you're saying that God is all-knowing, he's infinitely knowing, he's infinitely powerful, etc. So then in that case, you'd have to apply a special pleading fallacy to allow God to be exempt from what you're talking about.
Yeah, but we do that when it comes to creation. Like
you're doing that, but I'm telling you not to do that. I'm telling you there's a better way of doing it. Okay, look, this is the better way of doing it, right? When we're speaking about infinity, as we're just thrashing out what these different thinkers and stuff are talking about, right? The better way of doing it is this. The better way of doing it is saying the kind of infinity that we are saying is absurd and contradictory is the kind of infinity which is ordered and coexisting. Okay, ordered and coexisting. Okay. Why? If you think about it, you can make a spatio-temporal argument about it because it will occupy an infinite amount of space, and we'll go back to Hilbert's example and you can show why that's absurd. But that all doesn't apply to God. Those spatio-temporal dimensions and those quantitative.
Where are we in the video right now? Okay, 1 hour 3. Okay, yeah, continue.
1 hour 3. Yeah.
Let's hear this though. I want to hear this.
All right, guys. Shall we close it in 10 minutes?
Yeah, play.
Yeah, after 10 minutes we'll close.
Yeah. Let's close it. But listen.
Quantitative aspects don't apply to God. Yeah. So then you can make a distinction, an intellectual distinction, without committing a fallacy. You can say that there's a difference between the kind of infinity in the real world, which occupies time, space, 3-dimensionality, 4-dimensionality, 5-dimensionality, etc.
So that would be my definition.
Yeah. So you have to say, look, the kind of infinity that we are saying cannot exist is an infinity that exists at the same time and coexist together in the real world. Okay. So once you say that's the kind of infinity that then you can't get counted.
What's my definition of the real world again? Time, space?
No, what it wouldn't be is what you said. What you said was it's the universe. Because
so how would I say it? So the definition of the real world is what?
It's anything extra mental. So you've got the mental world.
Yeah.
And
then do you want to listen to it a bit more, or this is where Hijab has already committed the same fallacy, which is special pleading?
Yeah. Let Hijab explain the mental world and the real. I want to hear this.
You've got the extra mental world, yeah?
Okay.
So you can have universe 1, you can have universe 2, you can have universe 3. In the Quran, as we mentioned, there's 7 heavens, right? They're all the real world. I mean, there could be many universes.
Okay.
So they're all the real world. It's not just this universe.
Okay, no problem. So if I said it doesn't matter, 10 universes, 50 universes, no problem. Would that define them all as real worlds?
They're all part of the real world. Yeah.
Okay, so good. So then, if I say to him, all these real worlds, all these universes, are they dependent or independent? What do you answer?
Yeah, but that's fine. But what we're trying to show you is, when you get to the dependent-independent thing, that's a great place to start. But there's a stage 2.
Okay.
The stage 2 is to show, okay, dependent-independent. We've got that bit, yeah? Now, if they say, well, there can't be an infinite regress of dependent things, we're going to come to that, right? Because there can't be an infinite regress of dependent things.
Yeah.
Why can't there be an infinite regress of dependent things? Because if you take out a finite number from that set, if you take out a finite number, if you take one biryani out of an infinite amount of biryanis, then you're meant to have an infinite amount of biryanis in set 1 and an infinite amount in set 2.
Yeah.
You already know this, yeah? But what you're being careful as what not to say, because here you can get caught out. You see, it's very it's all very meticulous. If you say 1 or 2 wrong words, then you get caught out with infinity. Do you see?
It's like for example, we never say in the classical kalam formulation, everything begins to exist.
Start to.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that.
That's what I was saying when they would say special pleading, because they could use it there.
Yeah. So that's why
when we say for Allah, it doesn't.
Exactly. So exactly. That's why it's formulated like that. So it's not special pleading. Yeah.
So to summarize it, we can say that essentially the problem with infinity in the real world is that infinity and contingency in an eternal way cannot go together. That is the essence of the argument, right? So there can't be a contingent number of things that are eternal and infinite, because none of them need to exist in the first place, and they all depend on external factors or elements or causes for their beginning.
Sure, but if you just use the word coexist, if you throw in the word coexist, you're fine.
So there can't be.
What you said is perfect. If you just throw in the word coexist, you save yourself. Do you see what I mean? Because if they don't coexist, then there's not an actual infinity going on. Do you see?
Well,
I don't really understand this argument.
No, because he's
okay. Look. If infinity, look, if I'm waving my hand like this, up and down, right? How many times have I waved it?
2. Right.
Okay, 2, right? Now, if I add the first one, the second one, and the third one, I keep going to infinity, we add them, yeah? However, really, is this something that you can add? It's stopped existing. Yeah, it's not. Like, for example, this. Let me give you this, right? Like Ibn Taymiyyah, the reason why his thing is not that illogical is because of the following. If God created universe 1 and he destroyed it, so does universe 1 exist anymore?
No.
Okay. Now he creates universe 2. Guess what? He destroys it. Wait, hold on. So now you've got universe 3 coming. He creates it, and then guess what? He destroys it again.
So they're not. Okay, so you're saying they
don't coexist at the same time.
They're not coexist.
Yes.
As long as we agree, there was a moment Allah created. Because even if there's no coexistence, Allah created and destroyed. Okay, because you're saying as long as those things are not in existence
together,
together. Okay,
yeah.
But as long as we have to agree that there was a point Allah started that, and okay, no problem, destroyed.
No, we have scriptural reasons for believing that. We have Quranic reasons for believing that.
So just to,
what I'm saying is,
infinite regress. You said that it comes into existence. Let's say universe A comes into existence.
Kelly, you wanted to jump in there? I think you wanted to make a response there, right? And then we moved on. Kelly? Okay. Okay.
I think I said it in the past, but it doesn't exist anymore, so you can't see it.
Kelly, are you there?
Sorry, what? Yeah,
I think you wanted to respond to some point there, earlier. I think we kept moving on.
No, I just wanted to, and I mean, already pointed out that he said that Ali Dawah is committing a special pleading fallacy, And then hijab goes on to say that this kind of limitation or this impossibility of infinite only applies to spatio-temporal entities. That's what he said.
Yeah,
Why is that the case?
Yeah, I think this is special pleading, right? I
Why?
think Ali Dawah.
It's the same special pleading.
See, the
They
distinction
exist all
here
at the
is
same time. That's
the
why.
distinction here is Ali Dawah was going into contingent things, right? And then within this universe, I consider this to be, and then all hijab did was say, spatio-temporal, right? Whatever that means, right? And then the redefining or whatever, defining his own way the real world, right? Whatever those real worlds might be, right? So that's the
I think
I think
one
they
way,
I
and
think
I'm not sure if
yeah, sure.
yeah,
Khalid, go ahead.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he has said this in this video or not. But I think he might have covered it in the previous one or maybe in this one. I think the reason that he'll give for it or he mentions for this is, and I'll try to paraphrase it. I mean, from what I understood, what his argument was for this spatio-temporal sort of argument. I think his argument is that space by definition is finite. So you cannot have infinite number of things, material things within a finite space. If you say the space itself is infinite, then I mean, I think he would disagree that space cannot be infinite. So and that is just a
Khalid,
paraphrasing of my understanding of what his argument might be. But this I think this might be his argument.
but then wouldn't there be a problem? I'm just thinking aloud here, right? And then correct me if I'm thinking wrong or right. When they say space itself is limited, and then all infinities cannot exist in this spatio-temporal realm, right, or whatever you want to call it. Now the question is, God can't create infinite number of things within this spatio-temporal space, or God won't create infinite number of things within this spatio-temporal space. Which one is of these is true?
I think they might say that God can't. I don't know if they word it that way, but they say that is a logically impossible thing.
But why? There's no.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
don't
see the
think
reason for that.
there is a. Yeah, you just can't have that.
And I mean, another point that I think we have covered.
This is logically possible. So the point would be because it's logically impossible to have infinite number of things in a finite thing. But I don't think that's the case. So but I don't think that's the case because you can have subdivision, like you can have your fist. It's a finite thing, right? Your fist, and you can measure all the geometrical points on your fist, and that will be to an infinite, and then you can. Even measuring your fist.
You're talking about the divisibility of
divisibility,
space, right?
exactly. Yeah. Like exactly the divisibility. So you can keep dividing and find because you can quantify it, right? You can bring it down to measuring it in centimeters and millimeters and so on.
It's any division that you have within a space is a real number.
Exactly.
And the real numbers are infinite, basically.
Exactly.
And it's a larger set of infinity, basically, than the integers or natural numbers.
That's right. That means you've got infinite points on your fist.
And then you have this larger set of infinity, basically, which they call it the uncountable infinity, as they would put it, right? The mathematicians, right?
And that's logically possible. That's completely logically possible. There's no contradiction about it.
There's no contradiction there.
Of a finite thing containing infinite things within it, if you want to call it. And I might have poorly phrased it. So it's logically possible. So there's nothing wrong with God creating that because it's logically possible.
Right. All right, fellas. I think shall we put an end to it?
I think Madin, is that all that you wanted to say about this whole entire sort of back and forth between hijab and?
Do you want to say something?
No. I think my main point.
I'll just end on this thing that I already spoke about earlier.
No, what I want to say is that I think hijab made a key distinction. I forgot the phrase that he used, that if they exist all at the same time. Is that right? When he explained it to the gentleman.
Yeah, he said coexist.
Coexisting.
Coexist. That's right. Coexist. So it's the same meaning, I think. I mean, if they as long as they don't coexist, then it's possible. But if they coexist, then it's impossible. But he's trying to distinguish between God's knowledge, God's infinity, and a actual infinity in the alleged atheistic real world, right, where things exist, because they will coexist, and that can't happen because that's contradictory. You can find contradictions in that. Whereas as long as they don't coexist, like in case of God, they don't, then there's no contradictions, and therefore it won't be a special pleading fallacy because there's a distinction, a legitimate distinction between the two things. Because the coexistence problem occurs with spatiotemporal entities. It doesn't exist with qualitative entities like God, right? But isn't God's knowledge also coexisting at the same time? Does God like have new knowledge or lose knowledge? So you have God's knowledge also simultaneously all exists, right? All at the same time.
God is handicapped by an old set of knowledge. He just can't have any new knowledge. Right?
Yeah. So God has all knowledge, and they coexist at the same time, right? He has knowledge of all the natural numbers, real numbers, right? So you have the same problem, and the real and on all propositions, true and false propositions, even, right? And all propositions about propositions, right? And propositions about propositions, etc. It goes to an infinite, right? And hence God will have all this knowledge, and God will have knowledge of numbers. He's not. God is not counting the numbers, and he's not when he has knowledge of this. He's not thinking of the number 3 and then switching to number 4. Remember, he's all-knowing. Then that would imply a deficiency if he doesn't have knowledge of the number 50 before he has, if he has knowledge of the smaller numbers before he gets to 50. He has to count up to 50 to become knowledgeable of it. That would mean he has a deficiency. He's all-knowing.
Yeah, he's all-knowing. He's all-knowing, but limited in knowing the last number on the line of infinity, right? He just doesn't know what number would fall at the last place. He's simply mathematically weak, I would say.
Yeah. So God's knowledge. So his God knowledge is of all numbers, or is also he must possess this. Therefore, it will have to coexist at the same time. And if it coexists at the same time, then what's the distinction between spatiotemporal entities and God's knowledge? Because Hijab's main point was the issue is the coexistence, right? Because then you can quantify it, and if you start quantifying it, then you fall into the Hilbert Hotel problems of
the coexistence and order both at the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what
I think I think the problem is Hijab did a poor job of explaining this problem that these philosophers thought about. I think they were working on three simple Aristotelian principles, right? Of whole and part violation, parity contradiction. Basically, you can't have count cannot be simultaneously odd and even. Basically, right? You can't have one. You can either have odd, or you can have either even, right? That's one of the things. Right? So I think that's the issue that I think Hijab did a poor job there, and then at least Ali Dawah entertained us a little bit. That's what I would say.
Ali Dawah's entire gripe was God can't have a creation created with him from eternity. Is his main?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
He can't believe that.
He can't.
He just can't believe that.
And I think even Mohammed Hijab doesn't believe that.
No,
but he doesn't.
I think Hijab maybe is. I'm assuming Hijab is moving towards Ibn Rushd and Ibn Sina position, right? Who who took this universe to be an eternal universe, right?
No, he's not. I think if you see, if you
Maybe he
notice,
sympathizes with them. Probably he just sympathizes
he
with them, or
understands where
maybe
they're
not.
coming from,
Yeah, maybe.
and he also sort of pointed out the Ibn Taymiyyah's position, and he said,
So
and he
is
was
is
he
he
was
is
defending
he a
it in a way.
Salafi, by the
He
way?
was not rebutting it. If you notice, every other point he actually responds to generally, but he does not rebut. He says he has reasons and all of that. Maybe he did not
So
want to go into details.
he's an Ibn Taymiyan, basically, right?
And actually,
Salafi,
no, I'll tell you what. If I
Salafi,
think
right?
you might have missed it. I
Yeah.
think you might have missed it.
Mhm.
Ali Dawah clearly asked that, whoa, that means that there is no first creation. From Ibn Taymiyyah's view, there is no first creation because God has been creating eternally.
No, yeah,
Now,
Ibn
that was
Taymiyyah's
most,
creation is different. I mean,
I
his
understand.
viewpoint is
No.
different, right? Yeah.
Try to understand what he's saying. I
Mhm.
understand that Ibn Taymiyyah, and this is the first time actually that I came to know this. What his view is, that is how it's sort of different from Ibn Sina's sort of
The view, yeah.
view. But
Mhm.
because Ibn Sina believes that the universe is eternal, I think, and Ibn Taymiyyah does not believe the universe is eternal. He believes that Allah has been creating eternally. Nevertheless, I think both has its merits and and demerits. Both are Muslims, and from our perspective, I think disagree from some aspect, but and agree from some aspect. But what I'm trying to say is, he mentions Ibn Taymiyyah's view. He says that Ibn Taymiyyah's view is that creation, Allah has been creating eternally, but these
Mhm.
creations are not eternal in themselves because they're destroyed. They are sort of
Yeah,
one
yeah,
after
he
the other.
creates,
Now,
destroys. Yeah, yeah.
however, what that
Mhm.
means is, since God has been creating eternally, and Ali Dawah picks it right, that means that there is no first creation. Because how can you say, for example, we are the nth creation, let's say,
Mhm. This
the
universe
nth
is the
number of
nth creation.
creation.
Yeah, yeah. This universe is the nth number.
This universe is the nth number of creation. But what that means, before it, how many universes has been created and destroyed by God, according to Ibn Taymiyyah's view?
Yeah, I think
Infinite.
yeah, infinite, basically, right?
Because God has
Keeping
been
that
creating
number n
eternally,
is a
which
yeah,
means exactly. So it would be an infinite number of universes which were created and destroyed. Now, what that
yeah.
means is they can never go back to a single point or a single or the first creation. Say, okay, this was the first one,
Right.
because He has been creating eternally, and eternity would not end. It would be,
Yeah,
exhausting the inexhaustible, as Muhammad Hijab says, exhausting the
right,
inexhaustible. So what that
right.
would mean is, if there was a first creation, then that would mean that God has not been creating eternally. So
Yeah,
Ali Dawah rightly points out that according to Ibn
Well,
Taymiyyah's
that
view,
means we wouldn't exist either.
exactly. Now technically we should not, because
The chain
these
wouldn't
Muslims
start.
argue,
yeah.
the
These just
same way.
contradict their own arguments, pretty much, right? Yeah,
These Muslims, but I think that's why they don't agree with Ibn Taymiyyah's view, right? But what I was
right.
trying to say is, if you know, I think you might have missed it, because I've just said it, and then he moved forward. When Ali
Mhm.
Dawah said this, that he believed that Ibn Taymiyyah's, then according to Ibn Taymiyyah's view, there's no first creation, and he said, yeah, but he said that, and then Ali Dawah said, but we don't believe that, and Mohammed Hijab, trying to recall if this was how the conversation went. And when Ali Dawah said, but we don't believe that. And Mohammed Hijab said, yes, but that's because of scripture.
Right.
So that's a very telling statement, I think. Because what
Yeah,
that means is, logically,
Yeah,
you could argue,
yeah,
yeah,
but we
but
believe in that due to scripture.
yeah.
So I think it does sort of, and I'm trying to see, because I've got the transcript, and I think if I am able to get that part, because I just want to make sure that I'm correct in stating that. But you see, if that is the case, then in actuality, then he has no point against Ibn Taymiyyah logically, and maybe he believes that Ibn Taymiyyah's view is logically coherent, but the other view is also logically coherent. Therefore, he chose the one that was according to the scripture. I mean, that might be his view, meaning that it's also coherent to say that God has been creating eternally, and it's also
Eternally,
coherent to
right?
say that no, or that he has not been creating eternally. Although I don't know
yeah,
how
which
that makes
means
sense.
he's being deceptive. He's being deceptive by telling atheists that you can't have an infinite regress of backwards events.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's problematic, because he believes in that. Then he believes that time can be infinite, and there can be sort of infinite past just before our universe. So
it's just a Freudian slip, probably. In that case, probably he just didn't think through it, and maybe. But then it refutes his own position, by the way. Yeah.
Exactly, and this whole concept of one creation being destroyed after the other, it's just like and Ali have also said it correctly. He said that means creation as a whole would be eternal. Although one single creation would not be eternal, but creation as a whole has always been there. And for example, it could be something like the cyclical universe, right? Where one universe touches and it becomes another.
Then you can't say that the humans are no. Maybe you can still say that maybe in all those universes there were no humans, right?
I mean, you could say that, but I don't think they.
I think there's
would take a position
no logical contradiction of all these eternal universes not having any.
Exactly, it wouldn't be. They might say that there were humans, they might be humans, or they might not be. I don't think he would disagree with that.
So anybody
trying
to point out a flaw that then Adam and Eve were not the first humans because the eternality of creation and destruction. I don't think that follows probably from this straight away. Anyway, Faraz, this was a good stream, I guess. I hope anybody who joined to listen to us did really enjoy it. I think there's still quite a bit of material. I think
quite a bit. There are many.
There are many remaining here.
So all of this shows, I think, that this is that. How could you be so confident in asserting that this is a clear, unequivocal
proof of
that Islam is true? It was almost as though they were conceding that this philosophy is too complicated, and the way to show God exists is through just scripture. If anything, that's kind of the
it's very telling, right? I mean, even their best of the best philosophers, the core of the Falasifa, they didn't agree to everything that was said before them. Anybody who came before them, right?
That's right. The whole point is that they've got rational arguments independent to scripture. That falls apart. Clearly, these are difficulties. They shouldn't be so confident. And even if they're right, let's say, they're not right like obviously right. It's actually a very difficult intellectual
endeavor to get there. Get there.
Right? Through years of work to understand this. I just don't see that itself. Anybody watching this should generate doubt on the idea that Islam is true, simply because it's not reconcilable with the idea. It's another kind of Bayesian argument you can make, with like a hiddenness argument. If God exists, would He want us to come to us?
See, Madan, I think you if you haven't watched
splitting hairs over infinity to come up to arrive at the truth. This is quite difficult. Why should my fate be determined by how well I can imagine jelly beans or chains or orbits? How well I can picture it? My IQ.
So Madan, so they have so they have already conceded that fact that these arguments are not going to sway them one way or the other, at least.
Exactly.
Their fundamental belief comes from the scriptures. Basically, it's coming from there, right? And that's about it. And that's what I think. If you haven't listened to the last stream, I think they very blatantly tell that same thing, that we don't care if any of these arguments prove us wrong. We don't believe because of these. These are just for those atheists who just try to refute their position, right? Or to bring people into the fold of Islam, basically, right? Other than that, these don't serve any purpose in their own belief system. They have to believe because their scriptures say so. That's about it. So yeah, that's where we are.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, Khali, please go ahead.
I'm trying to look for that bit in the video where a guy from the audience actually asks this question. He says, you know what, I mean, but we should be clear that we don't believe in God because of these reasons, because of these logics. Because if somebody gives like a counter to this, it wouldn't mean that God doesn't exist or Islam is not true. We don't believe due to these logical arguments.
But
And
the
Subboor
script,
seems to agree with that.
yeah, but they would. Are they actually saying that there is no good rational reason, or are they saying that these are not the rational reasons?
No, he would say that the logical reasons and philosophical arguments are not the reasons.
Okay,
That we believe in God and
arguments. There are still rational arguments, right? The scripture will be proven due to, let's say, prophecy or linguistic argument, etc. Right?
yeah, they might believe in that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they'll still
Not
say
even
that.
that. I think they'll even move beyond that. I guess. I think if you probe them a little further on those, maybe that's one of the things. That one verse from Quran, that if it weren't from the creator of the universe, right, then there would be many contradictions. I think maybe that's one of the things they'll probably agree to, right? But then there is no contradiction, because it is from God. How can it be? That's then you fall into that circular uh, loop, basically, right? In any case, I think we'll cover that later on. So, anything else, Madin, Kali,
No.
you want to add? Okay.
Oh, that's it. I need to go anyway. So.
Okay. All right. Great. And yes, thank you everybody for joining. This was a fun review. I think there's a lot that remains to be reviewed, so maybe we'll take it up next week if we get a chance. Other than that, I think anybody who imagines of themselves supporting us any which way, if you can create thumbnails or create video clips or anything and would like to help us, then please do so. Just send an email to you'll see the email address somewhere at the banner. And if you are considering supporting us financially somehow, then please consider donating to buymeacoffee.com/philosapiens or patreon.com/philosapiens, and support us by way of YouTube, super chats, super stickers, memberships, whatever you have there, right? And the best thing is, just subscribe, share it, like it, comment it, comment on the chat, and whatever you can do to grow this channel so that it reaches to even larger number of folks out there who are interested in philosophy. With that, thank you everybody for joining, and then talk to you next week, hopefully. Ciao.
No.